What's going on out there, good people? What's going on? Appreciate everybody for dropping in. So I'm just starting a live. So let's kind of give everybody a minute to kind of hop on the live. Shout out to everybody that's tapping in. I appreciate y'all over here on Instagram, people over on YouTube, and those of you on TikTok. I appreciate y'all for hopping on. So we're gonna take just a couple of minutes and we're gonna kind of let people hop on the live. How's everybody doing? I appreciate y'all. Peace, peace, peace. Y'all let me know. Can everybody hear me well? All right. Shout out to you. No one ever will. I appreciate you for being here. On YouTube, I'm also Cosmic Paradox. So you can look me up. I'm youtube.com at Cosmic Paradox. So that's where I'm at on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe because I put the reels out. There's reels and they're only but so long. Every now and then I may put up a longer post, but the algorithm doesn't really push out those longer videos. So, I'm specifically speaking in terms of Instagram. So if you want to really go deeper into it, just a little bit more in depth, check out the YouTube because that's what I'm always going over on the YouTube. So what I post typically, well, at least what I've been doing over the past few weeks, we've had a theme at the beginning of the week. A couple of weeks back, we did Looney Tunes. We did Looney Tunes for 2 weeks. So we broke down a Looney Tune character every day. We also did a little bit of deep diving into some of those concepts on the YouTube. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube, I do suggest you guys to check out the YouTube. Now, this week, since Monday, we've been discussing the Animaniacs, and me being born in the 80s, growing up through the 90s, I watched Animaniacs, and cartoons like that, and a lot of cartoons. And what you come to realize when you start to study and really get into your study of symbolism, right, and esoteric knowledge, you tend to realize that a lot of this symbolism is within this media because symbolism is symbolism, right? These symbols are as old as time. They are ancient. So what tends to happen is there are agendas, perspective, viewpoints, things that are driven through these archetypes in this media. So when you can point that out, when you can see it for what it is, then you are able to empower yourself by rewriting the story. Because as long as you are in a state where your mind is susceptible to be impression, you are going to be impression with what that particular creator or machine is trying to relate to you through that subliminal messaging, because your subconscious speaks through symbols. This is why when you dream, dreams don't make any sense because they're a bunch of symbols trying to speak to you. So symbols is a means of speaking spiritually. This is like a spiritual language. So it is very important to understand symbols and to understand symbolism. It doesn't have to take away from you enjoying that form of media. At least it doesn't for me. It just is what it is. But this puts the power in your hands to neutralize that symbol, because when you understand what the symbol is all about, that okie doke can't really be ran on you because you know what is happening, you know what's going on. All right. So all this week we've been talking about Animaniacs. If this is something that is of interest of you, then go back and take a look at my page because I've posted something pertaining to that every day. So we are building on to these things every day. So, as an overall, looking at the Animaniacs as a kind of like a three-headed trickster archetype, right? This kind of puts it more in depth for you. And as you understand, once you can see it, honestly, you can't unsee it. And you will pretty much see it in every form of media that you see. You'll realize, like, man, this is the same story being told to us over and over again. And you realize how powerful the story is, you know? So, now that we got that little introduction out of the way, we're gonna kind of get into it. We're gonna dive into it a bit. So be sure to like, share, share this live. I'm asking y'all to share the live because these are topic matters and these are going to be specific wordings that I'm going to use that's not going to get pushed out there because of what the topic matter is, right? So, because of that, if you find this helpful, if you know somebody who's really into this type of knowledge, then share the live with them. You got to share it because it's not going to get pushed out because this information is going to wake you up. And there are a lot of powers that be that benefit off of the people being asleep. Now, granted, everybody is not supposed to wake up. So for those of you who are on this path, I do this to connect with like minds and like-minded individuals because it can feel very lonely, because we few amongst many, we are very few. So um and everybody let me know my audio and everything still good. Give me some thumbs up in the chat. Let me know that y'all following. Let me know y'all got me. Give me some thumbs up in the chat. So I got to keep y'all engaged, so that way that everybody can be, you know, can fully absorb and take this thing in and what we're gonna talk about because we're gonna get into this. But I don't want to hold y'all for too long, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go straight to it. I like to reserve all the questions for the end. Now feel free to converse amongst yourselves within the chat. Don't get too disrespectful in the chat. Please keep it respectful within the chat. All right, because I'm not able to keep my eye on that as much, especially when I get into what I'm talking about. So please be respectful in the chat to everybody. We can disagree, with some respect or whatever, but try to remain respectful within the chat. And okay, and if I don't catch a question, don't take too much offense to it. Just try to hold it and ask me later towards the end when I'm specifically looking at the chat because I would get off and start rambling. So I don't want to do that. I'm trying to focus on what I came here to really talk about. Now, of course, we're gonna veer and we're gonna as we get into it, but I'm gonna try and stick to my outline so we can get everything out there. But please feel free to add to the conversation. All right. So I appreciate everybody for joining. We're gonna talk about how you know um the media likes to play us and likes to play with us. And I mean, really like to play with us because if you think cartoons are just for laughs, then you are really missing the biggest magic trick of all time. This is magic in your face. All right. And today we gonna take this Animaniacs conversation a little bit deeper. All right. Now the Animaniacs is a show that on the surface it looks like it's some harmless chaos. It looks like some harmless comedy. But underneath that is a master class in media magic, if you can see it. All right. Now it's the kind that can both program you and if you can catch it, it can deprogram you as well. So let's buckle in and let's get to it because we are about to expose how this 90s cartoon, was both a spell and a cure. And I really want to focus on it because it's very powerful in understanding the duality of a thing. It's kind of like a hammer. I mean, typically you will use a hammer, you want to put a nail somewhere in something, you want to use it as a tool, but you could pick a hammer up and knock somebody upside the head with it. So intention carries a lot of weight. It's not everything, but it does carry a lot of weight. All right. It does carry a lot of weight. You've never stuck to an outline. I have to do this though. I haven't either. I lack structure. Me and structure aren't the best of friends, but I realized I could be a lot more consistent, and I could get my point across a lot better if I establish a sense of structure. So I totally can understand where you coming from. I can get that. I can get that for sure. Um, so let's talk about programming, programming 101. So before we even really get into those animaniacs, we're gonna set the stage, right? Programming isn't just technology, it's spiritual spell casting. It's repetition of words, images, symbols, and archetypes until your subconscious treats it like truth. If you ever seen the movie Focus, they kind of touch on that in the movie Focus. Now, in metaphysics and the occult, we know that words are spells. If you've been on this path, you know that by now. Words are spells. Every catchphrase, every jingle, every repeated joke is a kind of enchantment. The visuals, those are sigils right in front of your face, whether you recognize them or not. So when you look at brands and you look at their logos and you look at a lot of those things, it's magic, it's sigils, it's right in front of you. I did a breakdown quite a while ago about how when you create a business, it's called an entity because you are literally creating an entity. You are giving energy to something that is gained that will pretty much has its own established as its own separate thing, right? So when we understand that, right, from a Gnostic perspective, this is how we get an understanding of the demiurge at work. And that's dealing with a false construct that is designed to keep you distracted, docile, and disconnected from your true self. So a lot of things underlying it all in the programming is to keep you asleep, is to keep you distracted, is to keep you docile, is to keep you disconnected from source, disconnected from your true self. And in media, it's the archons that are pulling strings, shaping the way that you see yourself in the world. Now, when I say archons and demiurge, look at it like this. If we were talking about a prison, the warden would be the demiurge, and the prison guards would be the archons. So archons in Gnostic tradition are like the authorities of the material realm. They would be like the agents in the matrix. Okay. So they're not divine creators, but they are gatekeepers of the false reality. So they enforce the system, whether that's laws, whether that's, things that are of the norm or reality itself. So they police thought and behavior. Okay. In terms of keeping people inside of the boundaries of the construct. So they often mimic true light, presenting themselves as a benevolent, but actually serving control. So they feed on fear, on ignorance, and submission, whether literal energy or we're talking metaphorical compliance. So when you go along with the program, that's what you're urged to do. You're urged to go along with the programming. You're supposed to be led like the sheep. So, but sheep are often led to slaughter, right? Sheep are often led to slaughter. Okay. Everybody stuck with me. Everybody good? Y'all all get me? Yes, the subconscious does communicate through symbols, Janae. It does. It absolutely does. Yes. So when you looking at it like that, right? And um these are the agents. These are the agents. This is why it feels like the people that's closest to you are always trying to pull you back in, because the matrix shows you that everybody is still plugged in ultimately. Like they still are going to serve the matrix because they plugged in. They don't really have a choice. They can become an agent at any given time. But here's the thing. Sometimes that trickster archetype sneaks the truth past the gatekeepers. This is how you have to be slick. This is how somebody is truly a master magician in being able to play with the illusion. So that's like, maybe on the surface, I'm giving you some entertainment, but if you're really paying attention and if you can catch what I'm dishing out, I'm really giving you some information, but it's under a disguise. It's just like black exploitation films that they had to make. They had to pretty much make films kind of mocking and making fun of themselves while at the same time still trying to deliver a message for you to get. It's pretty much it's pretty much the same thing. We pretty much talking about the same thing. So in terms of the Animaniacs, depending on how you look at them, you can see them both ways. So repatterning, right? I've talked about repatterning. This show overloads your senses. It gives you rapid scene changes. They give you bizarre humor. They like to break the fourth wall a lot. They also do that in Looney Tunes. This destabilizes your default thinking and makes you more open to suggestion. This is why cartoons is this way. This is why they tell you cartoons are for kids because it's programming your children. You see, it's programming them by giving them all of this absurd. So you looking at it as an adult, this is, you know, it's chaos, it's absurdity, it's nonsense. It don't make any sense. So subconsciously you let your guard down. There's different ways of this happening, but you got to understand psychological warfare. You got to understand spiritual warfare because it's ultimately all to take a hold of your mind. Because if they can take a hold of your mind, they can control you. They don't have to physically go out here and do nothing to you. If they got control over your mind because they're going to convince you how to, they're going to tell you how to do it. You're going to do it to yourself anyway. That's the whole point of the mind control. I don't have to purposely lead you to do something. I can create something that will do it for me. I will create a mindset, and this usually goes for the whole collective. So in psyops or psychological operations, whether we talking about advertising, whether we talking about propaganda, whether we talking about intelligence work, this is a tactic that's used. That's called repatterning. So your brain runs on patterns, right? Your brain runs on patterns. You expect certain rhythms in conversation, certain cause and effect flows, certain emotional beats. So if somebody walk up to you and say something absurd that don't really make any sense, you're gonna pause. But see, in doing that, in them doing that to you, your brain kind of glitches and stalls for a minute. And that is a pattern interrupt. That's the interruption in your pattern. That interruption makes your mind momentarily more open and suggestible because the usual guardrails are no longer in place. This is what the whole movie Inception was about. It was about your mind. See, at the end, the guy mind they had to go into, he had certain defenses that was there. It wasn't very easy for them to just go into his mind. He had been under certain mental training, so it wasn't as easy to implement within his mind to supplant in his mind. So this is all the spiritual work that you do. This is the meditation, this is your study. This is your spiritual practices at work that strengthen your guardrails in your mind. So things don't get by you the way it might would get by somebody who's ignorant, who's unknowing. Because you have the knowledge and the information, you're more aware, you're able to see what they can't see. Because when you are awakened, you see beyond the veil. So you see what's not there to be seen. If that makes any sense, that's the whole point of seeing from your true eye. So you can see beyond the veil. You can see what's hidden in plain sight. It's actually a defense mechanism for the knowledge because the knowledge ain't for everybody. So if a person can't see through the veil to see the knowledge not for them. You can't continue to push it on somebody that is not for. That's why in They Live, you can't make nobody put the glasses on. You can't make somebody wear the glasses. You have to see it for yourself. And once you see, you can't unsee. You can't unsee. It's like stretching a rubber band. When you stretch a rubber band, it's only so far you stretch it. It's not going to go all the way back to the size that it was. It can't do that. It has expanded. Even though it may shrink back down some, it's not going to go all the way back to its original size. So you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't get to the 12th grade and then won't go back to second grade. It don't work like that. So once you see it, once you've been exposed to it, that's it. I feel like this is why a lot of people subconsciously don't want to see it because the ignorance is bliss. The ignorance is bliss. Okay. So this is something that happens, that pattern interrupt, that repatterning. This is a way to sneak something into the mind. So you watching it the whole time, you laughing, but you don't realize what they just said. Same thing happens in music. They can say, see, this is why the arts is such a powerful tool, because you have the ability to sneak things past the subconscious mind. See, a person that is disguising what they doing will get a lot further than somebody going straight in showing what they doing, because you showing your hand. This not how it works. This is why the occult is hidden. This is why everything is done under the forms of secrecy, because you gotta understand how it goes and how it works. See, because when we so caught up in trying to save other people, that's really nothing but ego, because you can't save nobody outside yourself. All you can really do is hope that the light that you living your true light, that inspires somebody else, or awakens them off the strength of your energy. But you can't wake nobody up.
Got it.
Now, why you compress? Why you compress that, man? You don't even know the sound they just made. Uh, y'all, OJ coming up here messing with me. Oh, I didn't know that you decoded movies, Janae. That, hey, we gotta have a conversation. We gotta have us a conversation then. That's what's up. I would love for that. Shoot me a message and let's talk about that. Cause it's cool not only you being somebody that I know that I grew up with, but for you to be into this as well. That's real cool. So for sure, reach out to me. Reach out to me. Reach out to me. I love that. I love that. Um, so yeah, repatterning is a thing. Now, this is what I was saying about artistry. Even musicians, even artists, even people that make music, they can say a whole bunch of gibberish and then say something really profound. And just like that, somebody who never thought about something like that, whatever they said, can shift their whole perspective. And you don't realize that that happens. Now, that happens on both sides, because people that don't have no knowledge, they don't have the means to be able to guard their minds. So if they can't guard their minds, then they are way more susceptible to the bullshit, to the propaganda, to the agendas. Meanwhile, though, if you are in the know, this is how you empower yourself. So you utilize these symbols and things and you use them to your advantage. So humor, we can look at humor. Humor is a Trojan horse. I love comedians. Y'all have heard me say this a bunch of times. I love comedians, and it's because when you're dealing with comedy, listen, when we laugh, our defenses drop, right? So that's when the programmer or the deprogramming slips in unnoticed. See, some people have this gift. You think they harmless. See, this is what it's trying to tell you. You think they harmless, but really they really not. They are it's a very dangerous archetype. It's dangerous because it's dangerous to the system. It's a rebellious energy. It can make you question the system. You're not supposed to question the system. This is why it's always going to be seen as bad. This is why the trickster a lot of times ends up being the adversary or the villain in the story, because the rebellion is bad. They don't want you to rebel, because damn, if you start asking some questions, you start asking the wrong questions, they're not really going to like that. That's just like the movie Moonfall. A lot of people be like, "Oh, it's a lot of propaganda in that movie." That may be true, but I feel like the most powerful thing about the movie Moonfall is what they make you question, because it brings NASA into play. If you question institutions that dare not be questioned, you already on the path. You already a problem. You are already dangerous to the system, because you're not supposed to question the things that you've been indoctrinated to know as to be the truth. The minute you start questioning them things, damn, is the moon a satellite? If you go, it's as simple as questioning your reality. That's how you wake up. You just gotta question it, because it's gonna fall like a house of cards. So when you question one thing, then the next thing you know, shit just don't be looking, it ain't really holding up the way it always did. And you start to realize a lot of this that you've been told right? And been made not to question is purposefully. So you do not go against this system. This is what most things do. This is something that's this is a very powerful place to be when you get to a point where you question these type of institutions. If you're going to question Christianity, if you're going to question NASA, if you're going to question the history that you've been told, these are things you're not supposed to question because they're supposed to be undeniably true. Because people don't even really question these things. This is just what you're told, and people go with what they're told. But when you question them, you become a very dangerous individual. Now you're dangerous. You see, that's how it works. So when we talking about humor, humor is a Trojan horse. Humor is a way for people to let their guard down. This is what makes people somebody like Dave Chappelle as phenomenal a comedian as he is, because he'll tell you some jokes. He'll tell you some jokes, but he'll slide some real shit up in there too. And in doing that, that's how it gets through. It gets through those walls that people put up because you let it down, you let down your guard because you laugh. And it's not just humor, but humor is a big one. Humor is one where things can slip in unnoticed. This is what they show you when we looking at the Animaniacs, right? Comedy is one of the most underrated psychological weapons because it slips past the mind's natural defenses, right? And the reason why is because the subconscious mind is the part of you that absorbs information without rational filtering. So when you're alert, skeptical, or defensive, your conscious mind acts like a guard at the gate, deciding what's gonna get in. But when you laughing, that guard is distracted. So now you don't know what's really coming in. You see what I'm saying? Humor disarms. It signals safety. So when you laugh, you relax. Your nervous system naturally relaxes. Your brain releases dopamine and your critical faculties drop. This open state makes you more suggestible, meaning ideas wrapped up in a joke can slide right into your subconscious without triggering resistance. So you don't have a sense of resisting it. This is the power in a lot of these comedians. This is what you got to understand. So people who do act, people who are put in front of people to drive messages, to portray characters, very important to the collective of humanity because of the message, the power that they have and the message that they can deliver. And because we're not as spiritually aware, we can't always see what's being toyed with within our minds. You see what I'm saying? So y'all heard me talk about Eddie Murphy. I love Eddie Murphy, right? I love I really love comedians, right? Because they have this gift and this ability, but there are times they've been used by the machine. They've been used to further agendas. You see what I'm saying? They've been used in that sense. So we have to be aware of what's happening and um how these things can get into our minds, how these seeds get planted, especially when we're talking about our children, because we're talking about children's media right now. All this is coming out of a kids cartoon. This is cartoon that we grew up on. And I talk about a lot of cartoons, a lot of stuff. Everything has this symbolism in it. You can't tell a good story without it. Sure, not every single filmmaker is putting symbolism in their stuff because they might not be that much well known. But I promise you, when you look at the prominent, well looked at, well liked filmmakers, they occultists. It's obvious and plain as fucking day that they are occultists. It's obvious, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing now. It's not a bad thing. We got to get out of this place of thinking every time we hear that word that everything just is spooks and it's all bad, because that's not true. Occult simply means unseen. It simply means unseen. And if you heavy at all into understanding humanity, the progression of humanity, that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to tackle, things that complex ideas, and it's supposed to be revealing of what we go through within ourselves. It's a cult by nature. So why not understand the language of what we dealing with? That's all it is. It's just the language of what we dealing with. So humor disarms. This is why comedy has been used for centuries to entertain. And I mean, not just to entertain, but also to normalize ideas that would seem shocking if somebody presented more seriously. You ever heard somebody say something that's kind of out there, but because it's in a joke, you can process it better, you can think about it better. You might be like, well, damn, that ain't really that bad of an idea when you really think about it. It's because of the humor. You see? It's because of the humor. So it even that's a way that comedy has been weaponized. It can also be used to mask agendas. So it feels harmless. So you think this is just a harmless joke, but it's furthering an agenda. It's furthering a narrative. It's also used to control narratives, right? By making certain people, groups, or perspectives seem ridiculous and therefore unworthy of serious thought. That's why you got to be careful when they show things in a tone of mockery because they might be showing it, but at the same time, they could just be mocking you in terms of what it is and what it's actually supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be careful. Sometimes these are the most dangerous type of people. Is the people that will be quick, that can get you to laugh, people that can make you laugh. That's just a gift. And it can be used in a sense of controlling minds. Right? It can also be used to seed catchphrases, stereotypes, and associations. So these things get repeated socially without anybody questioning where it came from. This is just like memes. Where these memes be coming from? Who is making these memes? How is this happening? Where is this coming from? Why is everybody saying this right here? Why is this trending? It's not a coincidence for anything that is trending, for anything that's being purposely put in front of us. If the machine is putting it in front of you, it's putting it in front of you for a reason. So you gotta understand that's the means of control opposition. Sometimes there's gonna be people on the other side for you to agree on the side that you agree with that's still being controlled by the machine because it's still just to take your energy. This shit is harvest season. It's about harvesting your energy. You make this shit go. We saw the Matrix. This is what they was telling you. You a battery. You charging this mug. You keep it going. You the one that make it going. That's why they need you to see it. That's why they need you to believe in. They need you to spread this. That's why memes are viral. They literally are viruses. So your mind attached to a damn virus, and you naturally, as the host, have to spread this virus. Why do you think when you see something, you see a reel, you see something, you automatically got to share it with somebody? Why you got to do that? Why is it the word viral? Why do shit go viral? What does this mean? Because viruses attached to your DNA. You understand? Viruses attached to your DNA. So what is being attached to your DNA? What are they telling you? What are they programming you with? Because that's what your DNA is for. It's a program code. Look at DNA and how it's set up, how it go together, A, T, C, and G. You learn this shit in science. It's a program, it's a code. It's a code. So they putting codes in you. You operate like a computer. AI is nothing new. You the original AI. You are the original organic life form. All the highest forms of technology was already made in your fucking body first. You the blueprint. You are the blueprint. You understand? You are the blueprint. That's right. Mem. When we talking M, we get into Hebrew letters, water flow circulation, having to do with the mother. You wanted something right there, Janae. It coincides. It does. So we gotta look at this like, we really just gotta always peep the game. Always peep game because in psyops, humor is the Trojan horse. You don't attack head on. You dress that attack up as entertainment, satire, or parody so that target gonna lower their guard. They lower their shield. Then once inside, the joke becomes a mental reference point. And that mental reference point, that's what shapes the audience perception long after you stop laughing. Long after that, it keeps on going. And then we have to understand in terms of programming, you have archetype embedding. Now, this is something that was a heavy download for me in terms of this, because a lot of things just started to come and connect for me. So when we talk about archetype embedding, if we looking at the Animaniacs as our example, this is what we've been talking about all week. The Animaniacs, Yakko, Wakko, and Dot. They are not just characters; they are coded functions. So Yakko, all three of them are different faces of the trickster. These are different forms of the trickster. Different cultures depict the trickster in a different way. This is what I was saying. If every culture has a trickster archetype, what does that mean? To me, it just means everybody talking about the same thing. It might not say that for you, but to me, it's like, okay, so these are all across, no matter what region you grew up or what system you grow up in, they pretty much all teaching you the same thing. They really pretty much are. If you got the courage to really go beneath wherever you getting your religion from, you're gonna realize they all came from the same tree. You're gonna get to that point. So these are trickster archetypes. So Yakko is the master of language. He reframes. He uses word magic. He's a magician. A magician is a form of the trickster. The magician has mastered the illusion. This is what the trickster knows. He's in an illusion. He knows he's in a fake world. Look at Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny does all of these things. His repatterning, his way of interrupting your pattern is, what's up, doc? So he inserts that pause. In all the chaos in the Looney Tunes, he'll come and say that. That's the interruption. That's the pattern interruption. Right? So when we looking at these characters, they are coded in a function. Wakko, pure chaos, right? So he's pure chaos. He destabilizes the system. That's what chaos do. Chaos gonna tear down the rules, because you come to the point where you realize these rules don't really make sense when you really get into it. So Wakko is the pure chaos. He's gonna destroy the order, right? Dot is the charm and innocence, masking deep power. This is the feminine trickster. So this is the feminine trickster, the one that brings that chaos register as destruction. This is when you get, if you're looking at Thor Ragnarok, you get your healer, right? When you get your Lilith, when you get those archetypes, when you get those depictions, that's the women who gonna bring this to bring it down. This is why they show it to you as a woman that just tear all the shit down, because it's the divine feminine, right? Because that's what it's gonna do. But that's not a bad thing if you're in an oppressive system. When you want to tear down an oppressive system, you don't want to keep an oppressive system up. You don't want to uphold it. You want to tear that down. So you're gonna need destruction to tear that down. You see? Now we can't get past. We got to talk about the racial and classes coding, because that's very prominent in a lot of cartoons, especially for us older ones who grew up 80s, night. Those older cartoons was a lot more, kind of evident in that. And this show did have reoccurring caricatures of authority figures, right? Often showing them incompetent, often contrasting upper class and common people. These weren't just jokes. It reinforced how we are supposed to view power, money, even race. So accents, speech patterns, and exaggerated stereotypes work subconsciously to normalize hierarchy. This is why Foghorn Leghorn talk with the Southern accent. It's a part of the stereotype. You see what I'm saying? It's a part of the stereotype. Archetype embedding is the process of deliberately planting universal symbols, characters, or story patterns into media so that they take root in the collective psyche. Archetypes are deeply ingrained because they tap into something that is older than culture. They are cross cultural soul codes. So when you see one, even unconsciously, it resonates to your subconscious and it shapes how you interpret the world. So seeing the full archetype is going to deliver certain messages to a certain specific part of your brain. This is what the ancient Egyptians was talking about. This is why they made hieroglyphs, because they understood that certain images affect different parts of the brain. You got a reptilian brain, you got your mammal brain. The different symbols are going to trigger different parts of you. Okay? So when we talk about the fool, the clown specifically, this shit just came through. I don't know. It just kind of came into the whole week. I didn't plan to talk about it in this way, but it just kind of came through. So the sacred fool or sacred clown is one of those ancient archetypes. Traditionally, this figure holds a paradoxical role. So they appear silly, chaotic, even unwise, right? Because it's a negative thing to be called a fool, to be called a clown. Why is that now? Because it wasn't always seen that way, right? But they appear that way, but they are actually deep initiators who challenge the status quo. So they challenge the status quo. They also disrupt rigid systems and reveal hidden truths, oftentimes through absurdity. They can remind people not to take life or even authority too seriously, which is a direct threat to oppressive structures. So in sacred traditions, this archetype was a spiritual equalizer. In tarot, the fool represents limitless potential. It's the zero card. Zero is the womb. It's the symbol of the womb. It can birth anything. It can be everything or it can be nothing. That's the power of that zero, right? So they represent limitless potential, freedom from condition, and a willingness to step into the unknown. So in indigenous and mystical teachings, the sacred clown could expose hypocrisy and help the community heal through laughter, role reversal, and play. So the jester, as we have come to know the jester, is often the one who can overthrow a whole system. But we don't know the archetype that way because it's been inverted. It's been inverted. It's been perverted because that's how it gets wild. Here's where it gets wild. The very same tactics that program you can free you. So the Trickster Trio formula is actually a liberation code. Disrupt the system, make you laugh at it, and show you the absurdity so that the old belief loses its grip. So you got Yakko as the language, right? Dealing with language. He bends meanings until you realize how fragile truth can be. You got Wakko, sacred madness, pure unpredictability that forces you out the comfort zone. Dot, the mask of innocence, the underestimated feminine force that charms her way past defenses and delivers that knockout blow. Dot used to have some of the most vicious jokes on the show. Because she could get away with it. That's what it was trying to show you. She can get away with it. This is what they was trying to show you. You see? But there was the inversion of the clown, of the fool. So they took that archetype, they took it and they weaponized it. They made it a weapon. Because not all tricksters are liberators. That sacred clown archetype, that one that can wake you up through play and laughter, it has been inverted in modern media into what we got, the horror clown, the slasher clown. So now the clown is dangerous, predatory, even evil. You got Pennywise, you got Joker, you got Art the Clown. Why? Because they know the clown can break programming. And that's literally what the Joker be doing anyway, especially if you watch the Dark Knight trilogy. If you watch the Dark Knight trilogy, that's all the Joker was. He was nothing but chaos. He just wanted to bring the system down. It's not about agreeing with everything that he did. It's about understanding what he was saying. See, what makes them villains is the way they go about their ideology. They usually go too far. They have to make it extreme. You got to remember you're dealing with the machine, right? You got to remember who made Hollywood. So they're not gonna give it to you and tell you and show you the goodness that's gonna come out of the villain. They're not gonna do that. They have to make it too extreme so that you can either or, so that you can stay split and do it either or. Because you can't, if you evolve and can see past it, again, you become a danger to the system. You become a threat to the system. That's the whole point. Is to keep you docile, to keep you distracted. So somewhere along the way, particularly, especially this modern media, this archetype got hijacked and got inverted. It got inverted. And instead of representing awakening through play, the clown became a symbol of danger, became unpredictable, became unstable, became deadly, right? So from the court jester to Pennywise, right? So from the liberator of consciousness to a carrier of psychological horror. So this is intentional archetype embedding for fear conditioning. If the subconscious associates the clown archetype with danger, chaos is not going to feel like a doorway to freedom. It instead becomes something to avoid at all costs. Now you're going to avoid it no matter what. This is why they make this archetype the villain. Again, I'm going to tell you, this is why they make it the adversary. Who's the adversary? Who is the original adversary? That they tell you is the original adversary? It's the devil. That's the ultimate fear trigger for people, is the devil. All you got to do is throw in something about the devil, something about Satan. Boom, that trigger pull. Niggas is scared. Period. They're scared. That's how it works. That's how it works. So now that you scared, you don't want to look at it subconsciously. You avoid that shit at all costs. That's just another way of reinforcing your distraction. That's just to reinforce you to avoid waking up, to keep you sleep longer. That's what it's for. So people become less open to the playful, experimental, and irreverent energies that could lead them to question authority or to step outside the programming. Because remember, they got to keep you in the programming. You can't divert from the programming. So, in other words, they've taken a tool for liberation and turned it into a trigger for control. So, when people are afraid of the food, they avoid the risks and the leaps of faith that could lead to transformation. They stay on the safe path, which is usually the path of compliance. So, this is why sacred archetypes being distorted into fear based versions is such a powerful form of subliminal warfare. This is spiritual warfare. This is everything is out to take your mind. It doesn't change how we see characters in fiction, it changes how we see parts of ourselves. This is what I'm trying to show y'all. Everything is triggering your shadow. Everything. The shit that makes you consume triggers your shadow. Everything is doing that. This is how they play with your mind. This is why they don't want you to get better. They do not want you to get better. They don't want you to do that. Remember what Littlefinger said in Game of Thrones? Chaos is a ladder. It's a ladder. You got to think about what Joker said in Dark Knight. He was like, as long as you play in the position they want you to play, everything is as it should be. It don't matter if you are young, a young black male in a gang, you are doing as you should be. You are going with the program. That's the program set up for you. That's where you supposed to be. You not supposed to be no awakened spiritual person. Young black, you're not supposed to be there. You gonna break the system. They gonna be on your ass because that's not what you supposed to be. No matter how messed up that sounds, that's way more acceptable than you calling yourself a god. Kanye said this. I know we think Kanye is crazy, and a lot of times he do a lot of off of the wall things, but he wasn't wrong when he said that. When he said, I could call myself a nigga, but I can't call myself a god. You going outside the program, bro. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You can do all the up shit you want to do as a game member, and that shit is perfectly fine because that's who you are programmed to be in this matrix. But let you wake up and get on some health and be on some waking people up and see how much more dangerous you become to the damn system. That's when you become dangerous. Nobody cares if you're doing as you should be, even if it is something that's considered messed up, because that's the role we selected to play. So when you go outside the program, you see what I'm saying? You're doing something that's different. So they even showed you this. They even showed you how they flipped it with Monsters Inc. When you watch Monsters Inc., right? They used the monsters to steal the screams of children. They were scaring the kids to get the screams so that they could use the power from the kids and their fear to fuel their world, to give them power in their world. Whole time, if they would have been making the kids laugh, they would have had way more power. They would have got way more on the return if they would have just been making the kids laugh. But the programming was to make the kids scream, make the kids scared. Look at Sully. He was a purple and blue monster. Purple and blue. The colors purple and blue. Them high frequency colors. And then you got Mike, the little green one-eyed monster, and his name is Mike. Like, or Michael, which is short for Michael. Like, listen, it be right in our face. It be right in our face, but you only can see it if you can see through the veil, because eventually, like I said, you're gonna see it in every story. I don't care where you look, you're gonna see the same story over and over and over again. And it gets repetitive. And eventually you ask yourself, why is everybody telling the same story? So there was a flip. You see, they flipped it. So you might be saying, all right, so how can I even see the program? You know what I'm saying? Here's how I tell people and how to start being able to spot the program. And if you want a Patreon, there's a document, there's a post up there that specifically goes into walking you through spotting the program. So go check that out. But here's a few suggestions that I give. Media journaling. That's when you write down how you feel while you watching it or after watching something, because that's your feedback loop, is how you feel, how it makes you feel. These things stir you. When you do shadow work, when you do energy work, one of the main things that happen is your energy, it stirs things up in you. It's gonna it's gonna trigger certain things to rise up in you, and depending on how you deal with those things that rise up, is gonna determine how you deal with your shadow and how you're doing your shadow work. If you can't handle what rise up in you and you push it back down, then you really not ready to do no shadow work. But if it comes up and you lean into it and you want to bring it to light, I wonder why I feel like that. Certain memories come back into your mind. There's a reason these things happen. It's an invitation for you to go deeper into yourself. So if you are able to reflect on these things and these things stir you up and you get to certain realizations about yourself, congratulations, you doing shadow work. It's in a sense, that's what you're doing. You're doing shadow work. That's how it starts. That's a piece of it. That's a big part of doing the work. Because a lot of the work is you gotta bring the shadow out. You gotta edge it out. You gotta ease it out. It's not easy to pull your shadow out, because most of the time when it comes out, it's through being triggered. But when it's triggered, it's already out. Ain't really, it's just coming out. But if you can coax it out, if you can be in a space where you're aware enough to see, it's like becoming the observer, being able to see how things pull you and make you feel a certain way. Your feelings are very important. Your emotions are very important. This is your feedback system. This is what's letting you know what's going on within yourself, what is happening within your inner world. Just like when you dream, your dreams are a way of your inner world trying to communicate with you with what's going on within your body. It could be something going on with your health that could be causing you to have certain dreams because it's your inner self trying to tell you what's going on within yourself. That's how powerful this type of study is. That's how powerful it is when you dealing with the dream world, when you dealing into dreams and what dreams truly are. Watch Sandman. Watch the Sandman. That show really kind of puts it on a lot. The whole first season, I did a breakdown the whole first season. It's on my YouTube. If anybody watched Sandman, you can go check it on my YouTube. I did the whole first season breakdown. I haven't made my way to do the second season because I'm so meticulous when I do breakdowns like that. I'm usually going through every bit of it, and it's a lot. So I haven't made my way to do season two. I don't know if I will do season two. It was well done though, very well done. I definitely some things in it that I do want to talk about, but I haven't, like I said, made my way to do a whole breakdown. I don't know if I will. Maybe I'll just do one video discussing it. I don't know. I don't know. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that. You know, how y'all feeling about Sandman season 2? Y'all let me know. Everybody still out there? We still good? We still good? Let me know. So, media journaling, that's one thing, right? So that's one thing. So you want to pay attention to when your guard drops. So that moment when you it's like you attach to the character because you can relate. You can see something about the character that you might can relate. It might get stir a little feeling within you. So in journaling is evidence of your journey. So it's like a way of kind of keeping track, keeping record of what's happening. You'll be surprised how much you can get out of journaling. And for people that don't like to write, I recommend doing voice journaling. Take your phone, record voice notes, record voice memos. You know, do a prompt, just speak, just talk. And there's power in your voice and hearing your own voice and playing it back and hearing what you are saying in reference to these prompts and how these things move you. It will do a lot for you. Also, now another thing that I tell people to look for is symbol spotting. So you want to keep recurring colors, archetypes, shapes, things that's not random. You want to keep a mental note of these things. As long as your mind is in a state where you're purposely, you know, watching this in a means of decoding or in a means of seeing more, it typically will put your mind on more of an alert. So you're more tuned in to pick up on these things versus just being entertained versus just wanting to be, just wanting to be open for these things to come into your mind. Another thing is word deconstruction. So the etymology of certain repeated phrases, certain things that they say. Dialogue is very important. Sometimes some movies may not be they sometimes the dialogue just be like so next level that there's so many things that is said that's layered to it that you can get something just out of something that's repeated or said within it, kind of making it a theme. So and there's power in the root of those words, in the root of those etymology. When you look at the names, look at the names being used in the stories. Names have meaning. Names usually tell you a story. They can tell you a journey. They can tell you a mission. They can tell you a purpose. So you can get a lot out of looking at a name. And you want to reframe the narrative, meaning you want to take something that you spotted within what's being shown to you, and you want to flip it in a way that empowers you. You see? So you want to do that. You want to utilize it in that way. So, do we have any questions? Is there anything, considering all we've been talking about tonight, that y'all want to elaborate on or talk about a bit more? We got any questions? Oh, what is it you was trying to get into, Janae? Is it the Sandman? Sandman is it's kinda slow, and I think the first episode is a little bit longer than the rest of them. But it's heavy though. It's a lot of symbolism in it. The same guy who wrote Sandman wrote American Gods. So there's that, you know. And unfortunately we're not gonna get any more of the Sandman because, I think dude got allegations out there, which is what we tend to see a lot of in these spaces, right? But yeah, Sandman, okay. But I would say try to give it another shot. If you can make it through that first episode, but it does pick up after that first episode. The first episode is kind of slow. But yeah, if you can get into it, it's a lot in the Sandman. It is. It's a lot in it for sure. For sure. So yeah, so when you look, yeah, Eily Smiley, when you look back at old journals, that's what it'll do. It'll show you how far along you've come in your journey. That's the powerful thing about journaling, but it's not the end all be all. Some people would just tell you that is shadow work, and it's not. It's on a little bitty piece, because you actually gotta do the work, which is you have to accept yourself. You really gotta establish a sense of self-love. And that's why, especially black people, we have so much we gotta work through because we have come up in this oppressive system, and so much of these things have been passed down to us generationally that we might not have even experienced, but it's genetically encoded in us because our ancestors went through it, or our parents or our grandparents. Now everybody got stuff that they gotta work through, but it's hard on us because we gotta really, as a collective, learn to love ourselves. Everybody has to accept themselves for their own little flaws and how they view themselves. But as a collective, we really genuinely have to work against the system to establish a sense of love for being who and what we really are. Because the system makes us feel less than, makes us feel unworthy, undeserving. So we got to do so much work in that area because that's how we taught. We're not taught our history. We taught the people that conquered us history. We are not taught, we were severed from our natural spiritual systems. We were given religion is a means of the control, mental control, spiritual control. They did not just colonize the land, they colonized the souls of our ancestors. So we don't, it's so many things that we have to work through. So quite naturally, there are gonna be some times along this journey you're going to experience a multitude of emotions because you have to overcome so much. You have to reprogram so much. You have to understand that you're not taught your real history. You have to go back and you have to learn your own. You have to unlearn and learn your true history. You got to truly learn who and what you really are. And that is a lot in itself when you have been constantly programmed to forget and to not know who you are for a reason. That's a part of the programming. And the minute you question what they ask you, what they are giving you as your history, you're gonna run into so many issues there because again, you're not supposed to question the system. You're not supposed to go against the grain in any fashion. So even if you come and say something about, you know, anything that can be seen as extreme. You know what I'm saying? Kanye saying slavery is a choice. You know what I'm saying? That's triggering on so many levels for so many people. But if you at a certain level, you understand exactly what he was saying. It's like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Because we still in a sense of mental slavery to this day. We are still enslaved to a lot of ideologies and things that don't have anything or any origin from us. It's coming from a system that's purposely keeping us docile, distracted, and disconnected from who and what we truly are. Right. So it comes with a lot. You know what I'm saying? It definitely comes with a lot. Hayoka, yeah, 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 yeah. That's basically the same as the fool. Yes, it is. That's the depiction of the sacred clown. Same thing. If you look in a lot of older cultures, they anytime you see anything affiliated with like a face paint, especially a white paint, you see what I'm saying? When you dealing with Papa Legba, See, he's a crossroad. He's seen as a crossroad spirit. You deal with, see, even if we're looking at Eshu, Elegua, when we're looking at the African depictions as well, same thing, same energy. And see, this is why they align it with the Christian devil. This is why they tell you the crossroads is a demon. This is why they tell you dealing with a crossroad demon, and it's like you got to sell your soul, but that's not really it. That's not completely true, because when you're dealing with the crossroads can be a multitude of things. When we talking about spirituality, it can be a point of transformation. It ain't necessary. It ain't just the way that they show us, but they show us that way for a reason. So when we look at these ones, they are the trickster as the sacred disruptor. These are gatekeepers of the path. So they hold the keys to the roads and opportunities. So in spiritual work, comfort breeds stagnation. Esu, Ilegua, they shake the table. They use confusion to dissolve rigid thinking. This is the work of the sacred clown as well. They use contradictions. They do that to force deeper discernment. So when people be like, they look at it as the adversary and see it as the devil. This is the reason that they do it. The reason that they do it, and they want you to see it that way, is so you can have a sense of fear instead of leaning into it and being awakened by it. You see what I'm saying? Because this is the point of it. So they might even use setbacks. Sometimes you're gonna have setbacks. They're gonna place setbacks on your path. The reason why is because they want to reroute you towards your actual destiny. It's not always a bad thing. You see what I'm saying? This is why in Yoruba and Orisha, you make offerings. It's not about appeasement, it's about aligning with their energy so that the roads that they open are clear and open roads for your destination, for your opportunity, and you're not dealing with disaster. This is the whole point of it. So the crossroad isn't a physical place, like they'll show you, hey, I watch Supernatural. And they show the crossroad demon up there a whole lot. We heard the story. What's from is it was it in terms of sinners, who we say Sam is really based off of, right? Or the similarities of that story, right? So when we looking at that energy, we think that's how we generally see a crossroad. So we automatically think some bad shit when we dealing with a crossroad. We automatically think some bad shit when we dealing with a trickster. We automatically think it that way because we programmed to see it that way. But actually the crossroads is a liminal zone. It's about the space between choices, between timelines, between realities. It's where free will meets divine will. So in African diasporic magic, right, or spirituality, right, crossroads are points of initiation. So that might be where you meet destiny. They are points of transaction. It might be where pacts and promises are made. This is the one they like to show you all the time. They want to show you somebody selling their soul. This is why they like to show it to you like that, because they want to give you Christian propaganda, because they need your ass scared. They need you scared and in church. This is what they need you to do. This is what they want you to do. You understand? And like I said, these are points of transformation, meaning where the self must die to be reborn. So Elegu, Esu, they govern this place, meaning they govern how your life path unfolds. This ain't got nothing to do with what they want you to look at it as in their propaganda. You got to realize a lot of this shit is church propaganda. A lot of this stuff came from the church. And what blows my mind about it is when you really think about it and you realize the papal bulls. This is just under the guise of the Pope of old time during the Crusaders, was to get rid of any and everybody who wasn't a Christian. If you either you gonna convert them and they're gonna get with the program, or you're gonna get rid of them and we just gonna take what they got anyway. That's what it was. Colonial powers demonize these entities, these energies, by equating them with the Christian devil. Why? Because this energy represents agency. It represents cunningness, rebellion. So all dangerous traits to an oppressive system. This is why there is the serious inversion of that trickster energy, and so many people see it with the negative connotation. But the fact of the matter is they are not bound to human good and evil labels. It's about loyalty. It's about balance. It's about truth. It's about movement. This is why you must do your work. This is why you gotta study. You have to study because they lying to you. They're gonna lie to you. They're not gonna tell you the truth that allows you to break out of this mental prison. They it's not what they here for. They don't care about your soul. They don't care. They rather take it. They rather imprison it. They rather use it, but they don't care. They not trying to save your soul. These folks don't. That's not what it's about. It ain't it. I'm telling you that ain't it. So this is why this energy has been shown this way. You know what I'm saying? This is why they show it this way. And I agree that is a lot of responsibility, Ivory. What did they say? With great power comes great responsibility. You must be. That's what comes with it. This is why this path is not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Being chosen is hard. This is hard work. That means you the one chosen to break cycles. That means you the one chosen to get this shit up out your bloodline. That means you the one that's chosen to end this shit. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for sure. It carries a lot. So this is not for everybody. And everybody not ready to embark on it. So you gotta let people be who they are and where they at. You gotta let them be. Because everybody, what did Gregory say? Everybody can't wear the magic glasses. The universe picked you. The universe picked you. It don't it that you can't get caught up trying to get your cousin them and your mama, your auntie, and your uncle. It ain't for them. It's not for them. It's for you. It's for you and you alone. So, I just wanted to do a live. I haven't done a live in a while, and I felt it was right to add to the content we've been doing this week by having a live discussion. So I appreciate everybody that came and hopped on the live. I will post a live. I will save it. So if you want to watch it later, you will be able to. If you caught it on the end, you can go back to it and watch it. And you can share it with whoever might be of interest to this type of knowledge. But it's all around us all the time. It's there. It's around us, man. It truly is. So with all that being said, I appreciate everybody for hopping on. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe on every channel, y'all. I need y'all to rock with me. I need y'all to rock with me heavy. These is tough times that we in, and I want to keep delivering this content on a daily basis. So, y'all check out the books. We got books. Subscribe to the Patreon. Subscribe to the YouTube. You know, I appreciate everybody for popping up, for showing up. I don't see too many more questions, but if this woke something up in you, if this stirs something up in you, media magic is one of the strongest tools for control. But once you see the strings, you can cut them. You can cut them. So if you do want to go deeper, I do have more decoders on the YouTube. I do have audio lessons on the Patreon. I do have additional shadow work exercises on the Patreon. And of course, you can feel free to book a one-on-one session with me. So hit the link in my bio. I have shared it here. I think I got it up here going across the screen. You can check a look at my link tree. That's where everything is at. My books, everything. So just take a look at my link tree. Y'all link with me. Shoot me a message. If you got a question about anything, you can't find something, I will reply back. Okay. So, you know, um, that pretty much I appreciate you for stopping in, Ivory. I absolutely do. Appreciate you too, the excluded one. I appreciate everybody for hopping in. Thanks everybody on the Instagram. Y'all keep sharing my stuff. Y'all see my baby boy back there. So, it's getting about time for me to get off, y'all. They waiting on me. So it's been my pleasure. I haven't quite decided what I'm gonna do next week. I gotta go over I gotta think about it over the next day because I started planning my content. It's working for me and being a bit more consistent. So you know what? Y'all can help me with some maybe make some suggestions. I'm thinking about doing the gargoyles. If we stay with cartoons, I'm thinking about maybe the Smurfs, maybe Winnie the Pooh. I don't know if I want to stay in the animated section. I might move along to something else. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I have enjoyed doing these, the Looney Tunes and the Animaniacs. So, there's definitely a lot that we can do with that. So with that being said though, that's it. Okay, you said G.I. Joe Emperor DNA. Okay, I'm gonna look into that. Then yeah, maybe. I don't know. I ain't really big on G.I. Joe. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I appreciate y'all. Peace.